3, 2, 1. Hey. Welcome to Sibling Scribbles.
My name is Harry Styles.
Welcome to Sibling Scribbles. My name is Johnny. I am your author here.
Hi, I am Marin, and I am the artist. And today we are going to be talking about famous people that we've met.
Yes.
And how awkward of an experience.
Yeah. How miserable of an experience that is. Good grief. Okay, so
you just recently went to a conference.
This morning. Yeah.
Just this morning.
Yes.
That's recently.
Very recently.
So I don't feel like I needed to be corrected. So tell me about what you did today.
Okay, so We Geek Together is a local game shop that I've worked with before. They did an event called Authors in the Dungeon, and they invited a ton of local authors and some regionally local authors. And I don't know how to say that. Like, there's guys from Wyoming, okay? They're not from Utah.
The greater Utah area.
Right, the greater. What will be known. Turn down your game a little bit.
No.
Not too loud. We are still
Utah and friends.
Utah and friends, yes. Utah and its colonies.
Is that better?
Yeah, it looks better.
Okay, cool.
We're still figuring this out, and I don't know how much or how little of this I will edit out.
All of it. It's going to be 20 seconds.
All of it. 20 second. Yeah, it's going to be a TikTok. We just do TikToks here. But it had a lot of authors that I really liked. It had Tracy Hickman, who's kind of old school fantasy, old school epic fantasy, did stuff like Dragonlance, and he's doing a Kickstarter that I backed recently. Very big in the D&D community kind of guy.
Okay. So a massive nerd.
Massive freaking nerd. He was such a nice guy. And then I met Dan Wells, who I'm a big fan of. I talk with him infrequently, but he's really cool. He did I'm Not a Serial Killer. He works for Dragonsteel right now.
Which is a great title because, I mean, if you say you're not a serial killer, then you must be a serial killer, or at least have people question.
Right. You begin with a question, right? You go into the book with a question. It's a great title. Great. I think titles, we could do an entire episode on titles. It's an art.
So good.
And then I met as well Christopher Paolini, who did the Aragon series, which was very formative for me.
Yeah.
I really loved it as a kid. They're eventually going to do a Disney Plus show, and the Percy Jackson show is convincing me that it's not going to be very good. But Whoopsies. Sorry, I'm messing with my mic too much.
It's so fluffy. You guys can't see it, but if you turn it around, he has like one.
I put little googly eyes.
It
has two.
Has two?
I have like a pop filter, and I put it over my mic, and it has little googly eyes. We are getting distracted. This should have just been an ADHD podcast.
Yeah.
That's what this should have been.
Marin and John get distracted for an hour straight.
Constantly, just all the time. So I met all these people, and Haley had Charlie Holmberg was there, one of her favorite authors. It was really, really cool to meet these people, just have conversations with them. But most of all, it was really kind of like terrifying to meet famous people. And I don't know why. They're people. Some of them are shorter than me. All right?
That's embarrassing.
I can't, grow a little bit, right? But they...
Like a 50-year-old man.
Yeah. It was wonderful. I had a really wonderful time. They're really good folks. And I had good conversations. I got some good laughs out of them. But why do we get starstruck by like people that they're not doing anything too different from what we're doing. I mean, they're doing it better than we're doing it, right?
They've got money.
They have money. Yeah, the money is what scares me. I'm like, oh no,
money.
It's money. But it's Haley and I talked about that. She was just like, I had like one conversation with her. She signed 2 books. I said, hi, how are you? She said, hello, do you like my books? I said, yes, I like your books. And she said, that's great. And then signed the books and walked away. And it was the greatest moment ever. And I wish I hadn't said anything else. I'm glad I didn't say anything else. And why do we get starstruck? Right? Yeah. Why get starstruck at all?
Yeah.
It's a question. It was a real question.
I think it's just because, I don't know, like when you're an author or you're an artist or something like that, you have created a mutual experience for people to see. So it's like you've created this amazing thing, and then you and others get to share it together and have all of these other like imaginative like things that kind of like fall afterwards, like more creativity and more. I can't remember any words right now.
We're having a rough start to this episode.
But and then all of a sudden you get to meet the person and you're like, you're the one who did this to me. And you're like, thank you.
It's kind of interesting. I think that
that's my take on it, at least.
Have you've been an artist for a long time, right? You've been an artist for a long time.
Yeah.
And people have like come up to you and like seen your art and like there's like a reaction where they're like, you drew this? Wow. Yeah. Like just I could never do that.
It's the over the shoulder, and they're like, you drew that? It's like the emphasis on the you, and I'm like, whoa, back up a second. It's not that bad.
Turn on the game again.
It's like, you.
Yeah, like the issue isn't the art. The art is fine, but like you're the problem. Like what?
How did you do that? And I'm like, I'm trying my best.
It's. I don't know. Like I've had people. I did this. I did the Dead Wars, right? Mm-hmm. This massive event, and I had people coming up and talking to me afterwards, and have had people talk to me about it since, and they approach it with like such reverence, right? Like there's almost a reverence, and I'm just like, dude, there were so many issues with that. Like I don't know how to tell you, but you like something bad, right? Like you have bad taste.
But you liked it, so thank you. Give me your money.
Thank you. Money, please. Money, please.
Money, please.
What's so bad about it, right? Because we've been on both sides, right? Mm-hmm. You've met some of your favorite artists. You have their stuff posted on the wall behind us.
Yeah, literally all over our wall is just stuff of people that I really, really like. So I went to Lightbox in California, if you remember that. I went last fall. And it was phenomenal. It was amazing. I met really, really great artists, and some I really knew. And because I'd followed them on Instagram for actually years at that point.
Right. These guys have been like your inspiration since you started.
Right. Like people that styles like I've implemented into my own work to get better, and I see their face and I'm like, holy crap. Like I saw their art and I'm like, no way, there. Like I met Ross Draws, and I don't have any of his art up, but I have stickers and like keychains and like pins of his.
Because he wasn't good enough for a full print, right?
No, his full prints were too much, and I wanted more pins. His pins were so good. Anyways, I saw his booth, and I was like, oh. And I actually like went up, and I took a picture with him, and I talked with him, and he was really, really nice. But honestly, it was just kind of like meh, you know? Like he was really great. Afterwards, he was going on break, and so he left, but I actually stood up and I went and I talked to his camera guy, and his camera guy was phenomenal. He was so nice, and he was so like well versed, and we had a great conversation, and I was like, huh. I mean, like the famous people are really cool. Really
sure, cool. Yeah.
But I mean, like the camera guy was like, I actually had something I could take away from that. Personally, not just like a picture.
Right, right. That's kind of interesting. I'm taking this off. I'm worried that it's making too much sound. Is it making too much sound? I think it's making too much sound. That's really interesting. Okay, first of all, that is like the most dad experience ever, right? For those who don't know, which is everyone, unless you meet my dad.
Our father.
Father is...
Daddy.
He's so... Like this guy's like so quiet, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can spend like an hour with him on a road trip, or just like in the living room or over dinner, and he doesn't say a word to you, right? You're his children. Mm-hmm. And then you'll be like at Smith's, right? You'll be in Walmart and he'll be like, oh my gosh, you're this highly specialized, highly unique individual that I know from somewhere online. And they're like, yes, I am. And you are Nathan Jensen. It's like, oh okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I used to be so embarrassed by that.
Yeah.
Whenever he would like talk to the cashiers or talk to people like they're humans. I mean, I do it now, but like when I was a kid, I was like, how dare you treat them like beings? But he's just so incredibly friendly and just be like, oh yeah, tell me about your experience. Like, how's your day actually?
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool
And
skill.
he's so good at like getting that out of people. It isn't a great skill, but you're right. Like you talk to people who are like you talk to famous people, right? You talk to famous people, and famous people, like their whole job is to be famous, right? So it's like we're gonna have a conversation, and the conversation I wanted to have with all these authors that I had incredible respect for, and I've read all their books, and I really like their stuff.
Right.
The conversation I wanted to have was like, okay, what does your daily routine look like? How do you approach marketing? How do you approach, like that's a business conversation, right? I didn't want to have a fan interaction. I wanted to like discuss like the ins and outs of business with them. That's what interested me.
Let's trade business secrets.
Yeah. I really, but these other people, like normal people who have normal lives, right? Like you can have real conversations with them. You're like, oh, what are you up to? Like, where have you done? What have you been recently? What have you watched? What books have you been reading? Like people who are like really, really busy, right? People who are very, very successful are very, very busy. They don't have time to do like normal people things. They're kind of crap at conversation.
Yeah. That's interesting though, because me and Thompson have been watching The Last Dance, which is a documentary on Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And it's really good. And they're talking about how good with press he was before they kind of like were very rude to him. And,
Right.
We're the media. But I mean, like, he would be so good because at the beginning of games, like, he would talk to kids with cancer and he would, interact with kids that would never have had a chance to meet him. But,
Sure.
But his dad would go out and find some kid.
Yeah.
And be like, this kid would never, ever get a chance. And then he would take him to the locker room and get a picture with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And he would keep up such a good appearance and so much like positivity when talking to them. I'm like, how does he do that? Because I've talked to famous people before, like especially artists, and I'm like, they have a really hard time
interacting with fans.
I wonder if it's just because like artists are more likely, and maybe authors too, are more likely to be introverts than extroverts.
I mean, you're probably right. Openness, yes. Because we're talking big five personality traits, right? Introvert and extrovert stuff is very different for like, okay, I'm backing up. Openness is one of the personality traits on the big five personality test. And when you're open, you want to go and have a lot of experiences. You want to have a very diverse set of experiences.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of creative people, because you can be an artist, you can be an author, and you can have a very wide variety of experiences. You can, go do research to, how to make a sword. You can go hiking to see what top of a mountain looks like.
Right.
But that changes between being an introvert and extrovert, right? You and I are extroverts. All right, like we are. And that makes us kind of different from a lot of introverts, because an introvert can sit at home and write and draw all day and
be fine without any social interaction.
Yeah, it'd be fine. I mean, they need a little bit. Everyone needs a little bit of social interaction.
Yeah.
But
touch a little grass.
Yeah. Touch grass, you introverts. That's for introverts, for people who don't like talking to people, they are the most willing to tell you that they're an introvert, right? Like extroverts, you just know. Like introverts, like they inform everyone.
Yeah.
But there's the thing, right? I think you're right that like artists and authors have a difficult time. Like they probably do have a difficult time like interacting with fans, because first of all, you have to meet a billion of them in a row, right? Like I got in these lines to meet these authors. I'm
sure that's really tiring.
Yeah.
So,
because you are trying to give each one of them a unique experience. You want to give them like a moment so that they feel, of course, so that they continue to buy your books. But
right. And tell their friends that they're so nice.
So great. I met them.
Go and buy their books. Yeah.
But it is, we did meet an artist at FanX. I went to FanX.
Okay.
And Haley's favorite webtoon is The Kiss Bet. I don't know if you've read that.
I was there when you guys got the art and stuff.
Oh, you were there. You were there for this. I forget everything all the time. But yeah, it was really cool because I didn't know that she was local. And so I had a conversation with her. Mm-hmm. And it was just a pretty basic conversation, like, oh, so you live around here? Like, what high school did you go to? I went to this high school. Like, oh, cool. You've been here? It's like, oh, yeah, I got a degree in this. And just kind of hanging out. This is my family. I'm like, oh, hi, family. I'm like, oh, hello. And it was the most mundane. Frankly, it did not sound like she wanted to have a conversation with me, right? Not because she wanted me to go away, but because, like, I was just some random stranger asking her about her life, right? Like, trying to be personable. And there is kind of a relationship between creators and consumers. But I went home and I tell Haley about this. And Haley just, oh, I'm so jealous. What did she say? She went to that high school? Oh my gosh, that's just down the street. I know where that is. And, like questions like, so how long have you been drawing, right? And she was like, like 8 or 10 years. Like Haley was just like, 8 or 10 years. Like, I'm worried that if she'd actually been there at this event and had this conversation, it might have actually been disappointing to her, right? That it kind of putting these creators on a pedestal and kind of separating them from everyone else is kind of a part of the experience, right? Like, you're not supposed to humanize them, right?
Right.
That doesn't. Is that part of it?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking for a second. I'm like, okay, so if consumers are here and creators are here, right? There is a division.
So it's there. Yeah. There we go.
There's a division because there's a barrier in between that, and that barrier is either publishing or printing or
just posting.
Have a platform or they have something. There is a barrier. And when you go and you meet them, there isn't that barrier of a phone or a physical book or anything like that. And so all of a sudden, you are just both human beings, and one is behind the booth.
Right.
And that's really uncomfortable for both people, surprisingly.
Yeah, actually, it is. I mean, not. I don't know about most people. A lot of people were just really happy to, like, look at Christopher Paolini in the eyes and be like, "You write about dragons." And he was like, "Yeah." And they're like, he's like, "That's right. Yeah, you got it. All right, you got it." But like I.
Sorry, that was so funny. Yeah, that's right. You got it.
Yeah, you got it, man. But it's. There's a bit by, not a bit, I saw a clip from Childish Gambino, right? Donald Glover.
He's so funny.
He's so funny. He's very, very talented, very skilled. I don't love the word talented, right? Talented kind of like takes away, it's like, God.
The hard work.
Yeah, it takes away the hard work. Yeah, there's some friggin' skill that went into this. Childish Gambino failed for a long time before he got good, okay? Right? And he published the good stuff, and so it looks like he popped off and he hasn't stopped. But like, you fail.
It takes a while.
Yeah, it takes a while to get good at anything. And so like, he's a highly skilled individual. And someone asked, they were like, "Man, how did you get to be you?" And he was like, "Look, man, I just did it." And the guy's like, "What?" And he's like, "There's no difference between me and anyone else out there. I just put in the hours and I did it. All right. I am better than you because I did the thing that you didn't do. That's it. Like, if you just did it, you'd be as good as me."
Right.
And it's like, oh. Okay.
but I mean, like, everyone has that in their life, so it's like, we know people who are really, really good at, like, mom. Mom is so good at momming,
Sure,
and I'm like, I will never mom as good as mom, just because she did it for such a long time. But I mean, like, once I have kids.
Yeah, after like 30 years of having kids,
you'll just have to be good at momming.
Yeah. I guess you don't have to, but.
I mean, if you're not, I'm really concerned.
I'm very worried for you.
And your kids.
Send your kids to this podcast. We'll be their parents.
No.
That is 1-800 we'll be your parents. We are siblings, though. Don't get it mixed up.
Yeah, that's a little...
That's kind of weird. I'll ask my wife. See what she thinks. See what Haley thinks about this.
Okay, but that's... Have you, like, seen people online who are like, yeah, we'll be your big brother, or like your older sister?
That's
like,
so weird.
Ew.
No. Why? No. First of all, that experience comes naturally, right? Like, having a big brother or big sister. If you have like a surrogate big brother or big sister, right? Like you're just in a friend group and someone's like the mama hen of the group. That is natural and that is beautiful and that is something that you cannot just replicate. You don't just get that, okay?
And they will set you up with every single other person they know in their life.
That's right. That's their job.
Okay, so that's interesting though, because the big brother, the big brother, you know, thing.
Don't say it like that. Why would you say it like that?
Okay.
I am your big brother.
The big sister, like that. That is a different kind of thing because they're like there is no barrier, even though there is one. So what's the difference between that and like a different kind of creator who's like there needs to be room? Versus someone who's predatory. And they're like, there isn't any room, but there is.
What's the difference between a commercial relationship and a predatory relationship?
Yeah.
Not much. Speaking of which, subscribe to our channel. Sibling Scribbles. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter. This is unlistenable. I hope you know
and
that.
Instagram.
Instagram. I haven't set that up yet. I need to set that up. Oh. I just forgot.
Shepherd Named Bales Instagram.
ShepherdNamedBales.com. I think that there is a. I don't know. I think that's like something to like really think about because we are creators, right? Mm-hmm. And we have had people like treat us different because of our creations. Mm-hmm. But why? Right? Like, because after I wrote The Dead Wars, I met a handful of these authors, right? I met Dan Wells.
Right.
And Dan...
My boy.
Yeah, my boy. The guy's, he's fantastic. He's a really, really nice guy.
I like his podcast.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got a great voice.
He's fantastic. And the truth is, like, I've only talked to him maybe, like, a handful of times. Like, or I could count it on my fingers. But I haven't been, like, starstruck anymore because he came and played my game of Dungeons & Dragons. Right? And he said, wow, that game was great. And it kind of like shattered the illusion for me a little bit. I was like, oh, you're just some dude, right? Who likes to play D&D and you liked my game.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was really nice of you. And yet I can still enjoy his books. And I've really enjoyed this relationship with him. Mm-hmm. But it is a little bit like, look, I buy your books, right? Like not, we're going to get dinner.
Yeah.
There's boundaries. Mm-hmm. I feel like I know him. I listen to his podcast, right? You're listening to our podcast right now, dear listener. But it is, you're listening to our podcast right now, but you don't know me, right? The book that we have on how to make podcasts, Everyone Has a Podcast But You, by the McElroy brothers.
They're so funny.
Hilarious
guys.
guys.
They're so
hilarious guys.
Funny.
But in this book, they say, like, you should treat your fans like they're the ones who got you there. So treat your fans with like, you know, love and appreciation and always very positive energy. Their whole vibe, right? Their whole brand is high positivity. But
they're so funny.
I don't know. A little part of me would be really upset with my fans sometimes, right? A little part of me would be kind of annoyed a little bit by fans. And I'm hoping, I should probably get rid of that. It's horrible for brand image. But there is kind of, there's a gap there, right? It's like you've played my work. I created an emotional experience for you.
Right.
It was a good emotional experience. You went through it. You enjoyed it.
Right.
But you don't know me, right? Like, why are you treating me like not like an equal, but why are you treating me like a peer, like someone you know? You know, like a little bit of that bothers me. But you can't like say that.
So is that just like in our human nature then? Just to be like, we want to connect with people so badly that like we see people who've created something and we're like, we watch them talk about it. And then all of a sudden you're like, we're connected because I know something about them, but you didn't actually talk to them. So the barrier is that the creators don't know anything about you.
Oh. Yeah, that's it. Holy cow. Well, thanks for listening to our podcast.
That's it.
Dang, Marion, you kind of nailed that one on the head. Wow. No, that's exactly what it is, right? Because like that's the thing. I do know Dan. Okay, he's like friends with some of our family, right? Like I've been to his house, right, for negotiations of things. I've texted him before, right? I do know a lot about him, but he doesn't know crap about me. Mm-hmm. I am some dude,
and that's why the interaction is never gonna be the same until he knows something about you.
Until he knows something about me. I'm gonna expose myself right here. I'm gonna expose myself.
Keep your clothes on.
Not no. Gross. I'm writing Bales right now. I'm doing 1,000 words a night. But because there's not a lot of time during the day, I usually end up writing from about 11 till 1. Right? That is like the ideal, window for me to be writing.
Right. Thinking hours.
Yeah. And I was writing, and I've been reading a lot of books, and I've been really impressed with all of them. And I was writing Bales, and I got to a point, and I looked at what I'd written, and I was pretty proud of it, but I also realized it wasn't like sellable, right? And I also realized I'm working on this next Dead Wars project.
Right.
And it's not my story, and I'm not motivated to work on it at all.
Right.
And instead I'm working on this other project, which is still so rough that looking at it, while I'm proud of it, is like, so
It's getting there.
it's getting there. Yeah, there's words on the page. But I like sent Dan a text message at like 1 a.m. And I was just like, Dan, what the crud am I doing? I was just like, dude, like, how do I write for a project that isn't mine? Right? Like, I've got a podcast. I've got a book that I'm writing. I've got a kid and cats and and I'm busy. I've got a calling at church. Like I have so much going on, and I have this one project, the only project that's actually paying me money right now, and I don't even want to look at it, like, because it's someone else's baby, right? It's not mine. So how do I deal with that? I sent in this text message at 1 a.m. and I don't get a message back for the entire next day. And I also was sick that day. I think I was sick at 1 a.m. and that's also what caused me to send that message. But he responded. He responded with like a really long, very thoughtful message about how he has dealt with projects like that in the past, right? And at the end of the day, they're his projects, right? And he's like, at the end of the day, this is your project. And you should be proud of that. And it was an amazing, wonderful message that he sent me. And I decided to come and thank him in person today. That was a big reason I went today, is I want to thank him in person. I was like, hey,
that's awesome.
I really appreciate that. Because he did decide, in that moment, he did decide to treat me like an equal, right? I said to him, I was like, look, I've never sent a drunk text before, but but that feels like the closest I've ever gotten.
That's as close as I will ever get. That's funny. That's very funny.
I am embarrassed by it, but I really do appreciate that he did decide to do that. He had no reason to, right? He didn't need to.
Yeah.
And most important, he was not I was not entitled to any kind of like real answer from him, right? I was not entitled to him treating me like an equal.
Right.
But the thing that he said at the end is like, not a lot of people get to make money off of their passions, but we do. And I was like, holy crap, like you decided to treat me like an equal right now. And so while you don't really know me and I don't really know you, and we are just kind of two dudes in a field, and one of us is much more successful than the other. He decided to be real, and that was really nice.
That's cool.
And so now I'm going to go buy more of his books. See, that's what we're coming back to, is that you need to be nice to your fans and build that relationship, and then they give you money. Money. I got you, Dan. Don't worry, man.
I think you have actually just a giant crush on Dan.
Absolutely.
I think that's true.
He wears a cowboy hat all the time. Wow. I want to wear a cowboy hat all the time.
Wow, that is so embarrassing for you.
It is. It's super embarrassing.
No, that's
But come on, you love like Starbite.
That's true.
Right? Starbite is so good.
So good.
He's amazing. Like, has he ever made like any public appearances?
I don't know. I heard someone say that Starbite was a girl. And I was like...
Look, judging by the way they draw dudes, I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, the funny thing is, though, that like...
Those dudes are all like thirst trap TikToks.
Yeah, so it could be a girl. Because, she would be like, I know what I like. That's all I'm saying.
There's been like men who have written like romance novels and won awards under women pen names.
I mean, just saying, they know what girls like. I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay, so that's a different relationship with fans because Starbite is completely anonymous. Mm-hmm. So they interact with fans online, and they sell things, and they post very regularly, but we've never seen anything about them. So
Right.
we don't know.
It's very private.
Right.
It's a very, very private lifestyle.
But we know that they did go to UVU.
Yeah.
Which is
they live nearby.
so
Right?
crazy.
Yeah.
Because I was graduating from high school, and I got their book, their
Yeah.
Kickstarter book.
Super
and
good,
I
by the way.
so gorgeous. And I read the front, and it was like a recommendation letter, basically, from one of their professors at UVU. I was like, shut up. I actually started... I'm not going to say that. No. I actually cried. I was like, they're in Utah? I could meet them. So embarrassing.
And then you married the first dude you started dating. And
Okay. I'm not going to show a picture of Thompson, but have you ever put up a picture of... If you put a picture of me and Thompson up next to a picture of Starbite, like the professor, same face shape,
You have the pictures of your... Oh, my gosh.
same mouth. Look at Thompson over there. Same
I'm
nose.
realizing that like the puzzle pieces in this room, like,
Yeah.
no.
It's like Rapunzel seeing all of the
Yes,
suns.
the big Rapunzel scene. Yes. We talk about Tangled a lot in this show.
I love Tangled. But like,
It is.
It's-
Oh my gosh, Maren, you had a type.
yeah, and
You had a type.
and so part of me is like, I don't know if he was like the right man for me. And then I'm like looking at all my like the fan art of things.
Yeah.
I'm like, actually, I think I.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted.
It was just
I got
what I
everything I asked for.
He's so sexy. Love me some Thompson. But
I'm turning that into a TikTok and sending it to him. I'm sending it to Thompson. The
but I told Mom that. I like pulled that picture off and I put it next to the professor picture, and I was like, Mom, look though. And she was like, girl, you had a bad. And I'm like, I know. But it's crazy because I had been like following Starbite for like maybe 4 years at that point.
Sure.
And then the first man I met on campus, I'm like, that one. And we got married.
It's
He looks like a cartoon character.
wow, your relationship with an anonymous artist manifested in your marriage.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
It's cute. It's cute.
You can't see how red I am.
Love is cringy, okay? Love is super cringy.
Oh gosh, it's so bad. But so good.
I want to. It's my son crying in the background if you can hear him.
I don't think it's picking up on the mic.
I don't think so either. I think these
Like,
mics are awesome.
Yeah, because he'll like do something and I like look at the little
Yeah,
fluffy lights.
nothing.
Totally good.
These mics are awesome.
Killing it.
Thank you, Haley, for these mics.
Thank you, Haley.
I really love. I think a big reason. Here's kind of my question then. When, not if, when we're making it big, when we're the ones on these panels. Actually, I am going to be on a panel in February. You can see me at L2E, Life, the Universe, and Everything. I'm going to be on a panel on Saturday afternoon at 4 for writing tabletop RPGs, and Dan Wells is the moderator. He's moderating the
Your
panel
man
that I'm
crush.
on.
You're
My
going
man, my,
to, like your
my
nose
cre-
is just gonna bleed the whole time. Yes, Dan Wills.
But like that's kind of the thing, right? Like when we're big, right? When we finally have
Would be confet.
everything that we want, and maybe this is going to be really, really tragic if someone's listening to this and they're like, I've never heard of these people before. They went and lived a happy life with families instead, right? Or maybe when we're big, what does that look like now with other creators? Because they're not like they're just other dudes doing the same thing as us,
Yeah.
right?
I think so I like the drama. That's what me and Haley have in common. John's wife. Like
your love language is crap talking.
oh, it's so fun. And then like all of the celebrity like juice. Like it's so good.
Yes.
But like when famous people meet other famous people that they're fans of, they like instantly turn into like their 15-year-old selves again. And they're like, oh my gosh. That's, you know, fill in the blank famous person.
Sure, yeah.
Right? It's Billie Eilish. And then Billie's like, oh my gosh, you're this person. And,
Right, like they're both like each other's fans.
Yeah, and then they're both like, no, but... I
think being starstruck is natural, right? I think that humans naturally want to like see other people and turn them into like the apotheosis of an experience, right? We want to deify each other. We have the natural desire to like see someone and say, wow, you did something great for me. And now I've created an image of you in my mind that's perfect, and so I am now next to a perfect person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
that makes sense.
I think we naturally like want to do that. We like to do it, even.
Kind of tying religion into that, though, I feel like we always are trying to make a god out of things. So it's like if you don't turn to God, you find God in other things. Not like you find like godliness.
No, you
make
create
alcohol
God. You create God. Yeah.
You make, you know,
Isaac and I talked
this
about
book or, you know, this or that.
Yeah. Isaac and I have talked about this a lot because, of course, we have.
Of course.
But we've talked about how America is not as spiritual as it used to be. Right? And so without spiritualism, the book Fight Club is about this. Right, where you can have a successful job and you can have a nice house and you can have a nice car, but if you don't have friends and you don't have a purpose and you're like not a member of your community, if you're not like being fulfilled, your life is kind of empty. And so America has tried to use consumerism to
fill that.
Yeah, we're kind of creating like an artificial God. Right? Like if you go to Disney World and you wear the Mickey ears and you get the Mickey balloon tattoo behind your ear, then you're a good person. Right? What?
Hot. Imagine. No.
Don't say that. That's okay. But it extends to other things as well, like fandoms. You could see that at this event that I went to today.
Right.
Right? If you're wearing the outfit, right? Someone had a shirt that said Hoyd for president. And I was like, I want to karate chop Hoyd in the throat. I hate that character so much. When you're in a fandoms are kind of a faux religion. Right? I had a YouTube video script that I had written, but it was going to be too much effort. So I didn't make it. But it was about how like YouTube and Twitch personalities are essentially like cult leaders, right? To a degree, right? I mean, they're not telling you to like cut off friends and family, but they are.
Drink the Kool-Aid. Yeah. Drink the Kool-Aid.
But they do create like a system of sins and blessings, right? You can get attention from them.
Oh, like on Discord, like the
like on Twitch
settings.
Yeah, like if you did, they'll say your name, they'll do something for you. Like you're essentially kind of like baby mode God, right? Like this is.
It's like that one episode of Community where you like rate people, like the Meow Meows.
The Meow Meow Beans.
Yeah, Meow
it's
Meow
exactly
Beans.
That. Yeah. That episode was not very. Like it didn't even try to hide the meaning of that episode. It was just very in your face. Yep. But it is, right? It is that. I mean, but we just do that. Like, what? I think that we have the natural inclination to do that, right? Some people would say, okay, religion's kind of this man-made thing. I think even if you don't believe in religion, I think that it's pretty easy to see that we have kind of evolved to naturally desire the deification of people and things in our lives.
Yeah. No, that's a really articulate way of saying that we need something to worship, and if you don't have God, you are lost. And so you make God out of anything.
Sure.
And so I think that's the whole divide, once again, because the difference between a creator and God is that God knows something about you.
He knows everything about you. Oh,
right.
Wow.
And creators don't.
Ooh, that is, wow, this is now a religious podcast. This is now a religion podcast. That is such a really good point, actually. Like, because that is the relationship. The relationship is God knows everything about you, and you're getting to know God in your lifetime, right?
Right.
But I don't know crap. Like, I don't know crap about Dan, okay? Like, not really. Like, Dan's not going to know crap about me.
Right.
Even if we become best buddies, right? Like, he's not going to know crap about me. Like, God knows my innermost thoughts, right? That relationship alone is what everyone craves. Everyone craves the experience of someone knowing you so deeply and forgiving you for your mistakes and loving you anyway, like loving you with all the mistakes.
Yeah, and then create things for you.
Right. I had a very powerful experience before Roy was born where I felt very distinctly like I want to create like worlds for him. I want to create like video games and books and I want to give him every experience that he could possibly have.
Right.
And I felt that way at the Dead Wars too. Walking around, seeing people play my sessions, screaming at my enemies, using my maps. Your friend, it was the guy who did the painting. Yeah. I walked past his.
Tyler Hepburn, my
Tyler's
boy.
great. Tyler's super great. But I walked past his table, and an enemy did a trick. I had a trick built into the character, the monster, and the monster did the trick, and him and his whole table went, ah, dang it, this effing griffin. And I felt for a moment just like, oh my gosh, like they're in my world, you know?
It was pretty cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
You know what? That's probably why he came and got ice cream with us afterwards. Is because he felt like he knew me.
Right.
Oh, wow. Putting peace. Oh, wow. Everything's coming together. Tangled is now seeing the suns. That's her name.
Tangled. My favorite Disney princess is Tangled.
You're definitely not an alien. It's true. Like, you're right. Like, he knew something about me. Right? He knew something about me by playing that game. He understood, like, the way that I thought by playing that, by having that experience. He understood something about me, even though I'd had, like, 2 conversations with this guy.
Right. And he definitely has a crush on you. He's told me. He's like, I love that man.
He's and I'm like, cool too. We should do a paint night. I'm serious. We should absolutely do a paint night.
He's very cool.
I think that we are running out of time is what I think. But I think that what you need to know, our dear listeners, is that...
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, hi, Mom. Yeah. What you need to know is that, like, you're right, is that the creators, like, we do have a strange relationship, right? But that doesn't mean you can't spend all of your earthly wealth on us right now. Follow us on Sibling Scribbles. Read shepherdhillbills.com.
Okay, so why don't we say what we think we should say the next time we meet someone famous?
Yes, let's do that, and then what we say next time we meet a fan of ourselves as well.
Right.
Because we're both meeting fans of ourselves as well.
I think the thing that I would say to a famous person is introduce myself. 1, don't plug myself. 2,
absolutely not.
If they ask, then they ask. If they don't ask, then it's fine. But you don't plug yourself. And then probably say, like, this is how this thing impacted me, and I want to thank you for it. And I'm a really big fan of yours. Probably, like, telling them a little snippet about you.
Yeah.
Not like, this, saved my life. You're like, that's cool, but that'll freak them out.
Yeah, they will go on a podcast and be like, I mean, that's really cool, but what do you do in that moment?
Right. Like PewDiePie, I listened to his this is probably what I would say if I met him. I'm like, every time I had a fever growing up, I would watch your podcasts or your episodes,
YouTube videos,
because I just thought they were the funniest things ever, and then having a fever made them even funnier.
That's great, yeah.
That's probably what I would tell them, like something like that, like something short, something nice.
Well, that's kind of nice too, because I think they end up learning a little something about you that way. I think in a way you actually are developing a relationship with the famous person in that way, because I said to Christopher Penley, that's exactly what I did. I said, hey, don't have anything for you to sign, but I just wanted to get a picture. And also, like, I read your books when I was growing up, like in 5th and 6th grade when they were coming out. They were really formative for me. I appreciate it. Gave him a handshake and left. It was...
Yeah.
And it wasn't, like... I kind of felt like there was, like, a moment of, like, a little, like, respect. Just like, yeah, man, cool. Like, catch you around. It wasn't, like, I'm not... going to take that moment and put it in my treasure box. But it was,
Right.
I think that's actually kind of perfect. I don't think I can build on that at all because in a way, like I did let him know why he was important to me and how, and if you do say something like, I read this part and this part really spoke to me, they now know something about you.
Right.
It's kind of a nice moment.
I think too, like even if you don't know them, but you've like read something, you could just be like ask them a really good question. Of being like with an artist, I would walk up to people and be like, "Oh my gosh, your style is immaculate. Who are your inspirations?"
That's a really good question. That's a very good question.
Because then they think for a second, and then they'll say something insightful.
Well, they'll say something that they're passionate about. You're essentially, like, on a first date, you're asking them, like, who's your favorite author, right? Who's your favorite artist?
Yeah.
That's a fantastic question. And if you think up a question that you think is good, run it by us first. Please run it by us. You're not as good at this as you think you are. You're not.
As the official, authority on questions.
As the official authority on nerding out over other men. Okay, then I'll take the next thing. The next time we see a fan.
Yeah.
Next time you see a fan. Next time someone comes up to you, and they just gush, right? Maybe they don't hit you with the good question. Maybe they don't hit you with the good, artist moment.
They hit you with, I'm really nervous, and
oh my gosh, I'm a starstruck. You're starstruck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they hit you with that. I think the correct way to handle that, first of all, is just treat them like a normal person. Just completely undercut it by not meeting their emotional level. Just cool. It's so nice to meet you. What's your name? Right? Don't treat them like a person, because even if that does shatter the illusion of you being their god, right? It is going to set an expectation, and more importantly, setting that expectation and setting it as a good one is going to bring them back to you and bring them back to other creators, other people. It might even give them the confidence necessary to become a creator. And so being positive with them is just important. It's really important.
Yeah. And kind of setting yourself up as a nice person. Of not trying to be like, oh yeah, this person really likes my stuff and they're just really weird.
Yeah.
Everyone who likes everything is weird.
Yeah.
I have walked up to so many people and just was a complete freak. But
I think a good follow-up question, I think a good question that the author can then ask you is what was your favorite part? What part stood out to you? What part spoke to you? Because even if that person does ramble on for 15 minutes about the best part of your book, right? If you write a great book and there's one part that's clearly the best and they just ramble about that best part and you're just of course everyone loves that part. Either way, giving them the opportunity to engage with your creation and giving them an opportunity to engage with you and to giving them an opportunity to give positive feedback is not only going to build up your ego nicely. It's not just going to make you feel good.
Yes, I'm quite a nice person.
But in a way, you've as a creator, you've created an emotional experience for them, visually or otherwise.
Right.
And essentially, you've kind of done them a service, right? If you've done it well, I'm not saying that you're kind of savior to them, but you've done them a service. You've given them something good, and maybe a way to make them feel better is to give them something good back. To say even if it is just praise. I do not recommend showing up and giving gifts to creators, right? It's a little much, right? It's a little much. I had someone after the Dead Wars bring me a Funko Pop. And they were just this. Cool. They're I've got all these Funko Pops. Here's this for you. And I was that's really cool. And then they invited me to some other event, and I couldn't attend. I was just I'm sorry, I'm busy that time, and I haven't heard from them since. Giving gifts is a bit of a stretch, right? It's a bit of a now we know each other. Now you've given me something a physical thing, but being able to compliment them and letting them know how much it's helped you, it's kind of giving them something good back for all of the hard work that they gave you. So that's my recommendation. It's what I've tried to do, right? It's what I've tried to do, and it's what I've seen has worked with me. When people have come up and told me this part really impacted me, or when I've gone to an author and said this part was probably my favorite. I really liked this character was presented this way. Those were the best kind of interactions that I had.
I would agree with that because I don't know. So me and my friends are watching The Golden Bachelor, and
great stuff. Great stuff.
No, but when people, when everyone gets out of the limo and they walk up to the guy.
Yeah, they do the first impressions.
They do the first impression and then they do the first impression rose,
That's
right?
right.
So when people, like as a viewer, you're watching it and the people who like, I don't know, who just like introduce themselves and just like give him a hug and say like, I just thought, you're just so handsome and I can't wait to do this. This is going to be really fun. Here's something about me. And they're very cute and they're nice and they walk away and I'm like, I like her. She's my favorite. But then when girls would like walk up and they'd like rip their dresses off and they'd be like,
yeah, they do like a friggin' like a clown scarf thing, but with like a thing of condoms, and it's just like, what the crud are you doing? Like, what on earth?
Or they're like, we heard you like sandwiches, so I brought you a sandwich. You're like, maybe not. So I don't know. If you meet someone famous,
I didn't watch the first impression episode. Did that happen?
I don't remember exactly. It was a blur of a lot of like secondhand embarrassment. Because they're all old.
We should talk about that next. I had thoughts about that show.
Yeah, so it's like if you can see yourself watching The Golden Bachelor and you watch them and you're like, I like this, do that.
Do not do the clown scarf trick.
Do not do the clown scarf trick. With anything.
Anything. It doesn't matter what it was.
Anything at all.
My example was the worst case scenario. Don't do it with
Even
anything.
money. Don't do it with money either.
All right.
You can't do that to me because I love me some magic.
Yeah.
No, don't. Please don't.
You can find Sibling Scribbles on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can read Shepherd Called Bales at shepherdcalledbales.com. And you can find us here, wherever the heck you found us.
Hooray! Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. And you've impacted me in a meaningful way. So thank you.
We're just staring at a Canon camera right now.
I'm fading you out.